president's agenda. No. Look, if you check the record 6 months ago, I made it clear that you have people like Manchin, Sinema to a lesser degree, who are intentionally sabotaging the president's agenda, what the American people want, what a majority of us in the Democratic caucus want. Nothing new about this. And the problem was that we continue to talk to Manchin like he was serious. He was not. This is a guy who is a major recipient of fossil fuel money, a guy who has received campaign contributions from 25 Republican billionaires.
Okay, Senator, okay, you say he wasn't serious, but Manchin says his main goal is to do what's good for West Virginia, and he's worried about inflation. Listen to what he told the West Virginia radio station. Listen to this, please.
Is that
inflation is absolutely killing many, many people. They can't buy gasoline. They have a hard time buying groceries. Everything they buy and consume for their daily lives is a hardship to them.
Your reaction to that, Senator?
Well, look, the same nonsense that Manchin has been talking about for a year. West Virginia, it's a beautiful state. I've had the pleasure of being there. Great people. It is one of the poorest states in this country. You ask the people of West Virginia whether they want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and eyeglasses. You ask the people of West Virginia whether we should demand that the wealthiest people in large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. Ask the people of West Virginia whether or not all people should have health care as a human right like in every other country on earth. That's what they will say. In my humble opinion, Manchin represents the very wealthiest people in this country, not working families in West Virginia or America.
Welcome to another episode. We could call it RBN Live. We can call it the Nick and CJ show, but welcome.
Nick and CJ, let's go. Let's go.
Nick and CJ show. My apologies for that graphic that popped up. I hit the button with my finger. But what's up, Nick? How you doing? I know you're a little under the weather, but you feeling any better? What's up, sir?
Yeah, I think I'm on the recovery route. That's why I'm in. You guys haven't seen a lot of me over the last week, just because we had a tour for the poor here, and then I got sick. So it's good to be back. I got a lot of good guests that's gonna join us this week, but it's good to be back. Good to be back. I'm starting to feel somewhat okay, but we got a lot of good things to talk about.
Yes, some of these topics literally fell in our lap right before the show. We had a list that we started for RBN Live Tuesdays. By the way, that's coming back next week. Just a bunch of us couldn't make it, so just decided to just do us. But anyway, and then the AOC video dropped where I saw it. I don't know how old it is. And then I found out about the squad or all of the progressive voting for NATO. I was just like, man, this is fucking ridiculous. Is people still following this path behind these people? What does it take to shake these people awake about the squad and their facade? Nick?
Yeah, for sure, not a good day to be an AOC fan. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I
mean, they keep showing people who they are at every given opportunity. Every given opportunity, and AOC had when anyone laughing at her today because she was pretending that she was handcuffed, and that's funny, right? It shows how much of a joke she is. Apparently Ilhan did the same thing. I had to find the video. I saw some people in the chat that said she did the same thing. But those are funny to laugh at, and we're gonna have fun laughing at those. But when you look at the squad voting to expand NATO, that's not just funny, guys. That's dangerous.
That is serious.
We got people that are enemies of the peace movement. That's what they are.
But let me also say this: we're gonna get into the topics. This is just our kind of just introductory. But when we talk about the ratchet effect, we're living it right now. What did the squad do that is shocking the left? They voted for NATO. Now, what does that make the American left okay with now? You see the stopping of the ratchet, and not only the stopping of the ratchet, you're taking the qualities of conservatives and making it your own. And I played this video yesterday with Obama saying, my views are so mainstream if this were so and so many years ago, I would be a moderate Republican. And this is how it's done, where Democrats take the views of somebody to their right, and now that becomes a liberal thing.
That's why it always cracks me up when you see people with political analysis that's like stuck in like 2015 at best, when they try to describe like the idea we're gonna have a progressive takeover of the Democratic Party, that the Democratic Party, the lesser two evils, as if we have not had complete Overton window shift where they are now the party of the CIA and FBI. And like how can a party be the lesser two evils to Black, colonized, disenfranchised people if you are a party that is openly supporting the CIA, openly supporting the military-industrial complex, and openly supporting NATO? Like, you guys know why I did that stream? Lula makes Bernie Sanders look like Ronald Reagan, because you guys saw his opinion on NATO. Meanwhile, the AOC and the progressives in the United States is voting to expand NATO on extremely shaky premises, right? And we're gonna get into that later, like the details. Like I said, later tonight I'm gonna have Isha K on. She talks about Ukraine, NATO all the time. We're gonna break down why that's such a horrific decision. But like the left, even the left of the Democratic Party, the left flank of the Democratic Party is pro-NATO, which is pro-capitalist imperialist power. You cannot say you're a socialist if you support NATO.
This is the co-opting of meaning. This is why now democratic socialist actually really means socialist democrat, and they're not the same. Historically, they're not the same, but now they're kind of homogenized together. But before we get into the topics, let's do our common chat check, and let's do our like check. I just checked it. The likes were at 80, and we have 180 people watching. So maybe we can add, we can get to 150. Let's try to get to 150 likes, get some more people in here, especially for when we get to the AOC story. I know because that's what everybody's here for. I know, well, not everybody, because when we put up the graphics and people vote, the AOC graphic by far has like twice as many votes here. Also, join our Substack if you want to get notifications of when we're going to go live like this. It was a little bit different time, topics. Join our Substack, and we will be sending those out for all of our streams. So we did and now let's just check the comments, see who's in the building here. Hang on a second. Computer's moving a little bit slow.
This comment, Jennifer Lee says AOC voted for regime change in China. You guys know one of the very first votes AOC had was to expand NATO. They was out in the open about who it was. AOC, one of her very first votes was to expand NATO. Jennifer also said AOC voted for regime change in China. Very few progressives noticed or cared. Because that's the social democrats. Those people, right. they are all for the dominance of Western hegemonic power. That's the difference. Like they love the Scandinavians, right? Who they rely on exploitation and slave labor as well. So they are not about overthrowing the capitalist imperialist structure, which Lenin outlined as the highest form of imperialism, this global form of capitalism. A lot of people, they got different terms they like to use. Like one thing that always cracks me up when people talk about like the Great Reset theory, which I'm like, on paper, guys, I don't think you guys are wrong. But they're the same shit that capitalists always do. Like the people pretend this is something new. They're like, oh my God, the Great Reset, all these billionaires, these corporations, they getting together and they deciding the global economy, they're deciding culture. I'm like, yeah, capitalism, motherfucker. That's who you think controls the means of production. So I just always find it funny when capitalists are like late and then they find new terms to describe what Marx has been saying for decades.
I was telling my wife the exact thing. She was like, the Great Reset, how come y'all don't talk about that? I'm like we talk about that all the time. We just never use that term. We never use that term because we view it a different way. But anyway, that's a long story. But here's another comment. AOC pulling a Bowman for which she got permission. Proof she's smiling while being arrested. All theater. I was thinking the same thing. Not necessarily about about this. This is theater for her. Because guess what happened today? This is pivotal. Guess what happened today? What two things we're talking about today? The squad doing something that's not left. That's doing something very right wing. So what does she have to do? She has to wash herself of her sins by going out, doing this theater in front of the camera, being arrested, Nick. This is what's happening. She's like, trying to balance out what is happening. She's trying to balance out that vote here. Go ahead.
How low does she think her fans too? That she can continue to vote for garbage like expanding NATO, but then she thinks she can just do this stunt. And then like we really think that she's in danger, as if the establishment about just turn against her and like AOC about being imprisoned or some shit like that. Like what? Who was this stunt for? Like did she think that she was gonna get a lot of left cred for this? Like we know who you are. I remember the police was cracking the head of Met Gala protesters while she had Eat the Rich dress, right? Which someone said in the comments, they said, well, at least her pretending to get arrested is better than going to the Met Gala with the Eat the Rich dress, right? 14 million.
I guess. I mean, I guess it's better. It's the better in the same sense that Biden is better than Trump. I guess it's the same way. I mean, but yeah.
This is the what we about to play the video. Well, I just found it. This is the video.
Okay, yeah. Let's. We might as well. I'm looking at all the I'm looking at the comments because we're just doing a comment check. But all the comments are about AOC, so let's just get into the story.
Yeah, I think A1, because this is hot. I'll say A1 talking about this right now. Like, I've seen a lot of people get arrested. I haven't seen a lot of smiles and smirks. I don't even see a lot of smiles and smirks when being escorted by the police. Let alone, like, even if she's not being arrested, I remember the KC protest. Like, we was not happy around these motherfuckers, man. That's why we got tear gas, because Kansas City is a city full of shit talkers, and we hurt a lot of their feelings. So yeah, that's what. And you guys see the hand.
That's just a damn shame.
What we doing here? What is that? And then there was pictures out floating, and obviously one of the pictures came from.
Oh yeah, let's see that. Can you blow that one up where it blows up the hand?
Look, you see that now. These people are politicians, man. So AOC knows that there's going to be a lot of people who just sees that left picture, especially among her, like her 13 million followers. Like I guess like the only people who follow her and like her unironically are the people who follow politics on the surface level in the first place. Right. So they probably the people who just see a headline like AOC is scored out by the police, and they see her. They probably see the left one. That's the one that AOC and her team one put out. And then like, yeah, man, AOC just got arrested. And they just move on with her life. And AOC, those are the people that she's trying to trick. Like she knows
AOC, I guess she forgot that cameras might be on the side of her, maybe, because it's literally like she's posing, like she's walking directly towards one of the cameras, posing, knowing, just simply not lying to herself in her mind, just simply putting her hands like this, like she's just walking like this. Is going to give that appearance of a better image to be taken. So you have the NATO vote side by side with her being arrested. You see how she's trying to balance out her image by doing this.
And what is your message here? Like you got a video of you being escorted by the police. Like you're not gonna have a direct call to action at this moment. Like you see, she's just quietly strolling along. Smiling at her photo op that
it's just for show.
This is unserious. Like I wanted to see this.
Yes, so unserious.
Yes, we did it. You said it. The fist at the end. Got my photo op. He said at the very end.
The freaking her comms director is probably like, yes, check, check box. Let me put up the vote count. So Fiorella. Friend of the show, friend of the network, love Fiorella. She put up let me read her tweet actually. So Fiorella Isabel, the entirety of progressives, including the squad, voted with neocons and neoliberals to support Finland and Sweden joining NATO, an unnecessary move that will actually hurt them and escalate the war as NATO seeks to surround Russia's border with weapons, and Russia won't stand for it. And then that's the sheet here where it shows, of course, it's real small. You're not going to be see every little detail, but this shows the vote breakdown. So she's just showing the proof or receipts, as they say, as the youngins say, the receipts she posted here. And I also want to go to your tweet now that I'm here.
I just saw the video, bro. What? Like Ilhan does this exact, bro. She don't have a police. What? Sorry, CJ.
Put yours up. Put that up. Let's see the video,
bro, Ilhan,
and then we'll go to your tweet.
Ilhan did the same thing, but it's worse.
It's worse.
She got the hand behind the back, and the cop is not even there. Look at this.
God.
Look at this. Hold on. I found this. Hold up. What is she doing? Ilhan fake bid. Let me big stream it. Like she was been scoring. What she's doing? What's she doing?
You don't think that's intentional? For the AOC stands that's in the comments, please show yourselves and say something. You don't think it's intentional?
That's AOC. Yeah, that's AOC. Like, so this takes after right at the end of the last video. So that AOC walking right when she did that fist, then Ilhan right behind her. No cop.
You telling me she signaled her? I didn't even know that.
You see, I did not know that. You see, that's the end of the video we watched first. And then Ilhan comes out of nowhere doing the same thing. And then I saw a headline. I just saw a headline where it was like Ilhan arrested, and people were like, "No, she wasn't." So
it's a damn shame, man.
The squad and the progressive media apparatus was ready to put this out there, and the people was like, "Wait, nope, y'all niggas didn't know the video was going to come out." Oh wow,
the damn shame.
That's shit.
Yeah, like this is all funny, but it's a damn shame. Damn. I'm a little shocked that they would do that without, or at least Ilhan, without the rest of her props being the cops holding her arm at least. Like, that's amazing. Go ahead.
And I'm gonna try to be careful because with all my criticisms of Bernie Sanders, I have a lot of criticisms of Bernie Sanders. But Bernie Sanders, for a very long time, was one of the most popular senators in the country. And one of the reasons why, once again, with all my criticisms of him, you don't see Bernie Sanders engage a lot of these stupid-ass political stunts. He always had, he was actually repulsed. Like, he always been kind of repulsed to these kind of political stunts. And if you're actually a strong working-class activist and advocate, why will you even have to do these stunts? Like, the people who have to do these kind of political stunts are people like Trump. People like Ted Cruz, people like Nancy Pelosi, they gotta do stunts like Kente Cloth, kneeling, right? Like the conservative version of that is posing with a gun. They pose. I'm a normal working class hunting guy. And we get a lot of those ads in Missouri where there's some guy, he has some cowboy boots on, cowboy hat. He's like, yeah, I'm like, I shoot some deer today. They got a gimmick because they got to trick the working class, right? If you're a real socialist, if you're a real unapologetically pro working class person, do you need a gimmick? Do you see Kashama Sawant doing gimmicks, doing weird stunts like these? Their message alone is enough to unite. This is almost when you see the squad constantly doing ridiculous shit like this, it's almost an admission that they have nothing else.
They don't, Nick. It is absolutely an admission, and I do have a couple of other videos I do want to show, or tweets I want to show on this, but there is an admission that you could look at it in a couple of ways, but they are admitting by these type of stunts that this is the most that they can do. Because you understand, like, if she was planning a direct action because of this, with 13 million of her followers trying to round up 10,000 people at every location, and she's doing 5 stops. Do you see how she wouldn't have time to do this kind of, because she's doing real stuff?
You know what she should
No,
be
no,
doing?
go ahead.
You know what they should be doing right now? You got droughts all over the place. The UK hit their record heat temperature they ever hit. They should be demanding and getting mass arrests. They should be organizing mass civil disobedience from the capitalists, literally destroying the planet with their lack of climate action. Like, these are things that they should be doing right now because Joe Biden is not engaging in climate action. Even if they want to blame Joe Manchin for blocking climate spending bill, whatever the fuck that was supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? So even if you want to blame Joe Manchin, you can use that excuse. All right, Joe Manchin and Democratic Party blocking climate change bill. Joe Biden is expanding fracking. He's expanding the military more. We need to go to Congress. We need to go to these people's houses and get locked up. That is some real left action. They're not doing that. They're going through these protests and pretend to get arrested themselves, right? So they can get the clout. You see how there's no strategy? You see how see how it's just nothing but the same theater that benefits the red-blue game. Because, like, conservatives look at this, and now if you're an AOC stan, like, once again, we can do it both ways, right? We can do it either way. Let's say you think she's a brave queen for this. Bro, she's getting.
I'm just thinking of what Jacobin is going to be writing and talking about right now.
AOC's so brave. AOC once in a lifetime.
What are the PMCs going to be talking about?
She's getting dragged all over the place. She gave the conservatives the talking point of the day. I already seen they all talking about this right now. I said everyone rolling their eyes, and so I'm like, even if you are supportive of them, do you guys see how them not being effective leftist leaders is hurting the movement? Like, we have AOC who have approval rating around the same as Nancy Pelosi.
Ooh.
How can that be possible when you support Medicare for all? They support the most popular policy ideas, but they are such incompetent politicians that they support the most popular shit, but they are just like Nancy Pelosi. How is that possible? That's just political incompetence. And they want to blame everyone else except themselves because that reflects on their staff. That reflects
political incompetence or political cowardice, because they know they don't want to be. Remember the line. They don't want to be like Ralph Nader. But look at this tweet here from a regular of ours. What's up, John? Obama drinking bad water. That's another example of the faking the funk. But I remember some of the faces of the black audience of that faking that drink water. It was looking like running around like, what? Like, they wasn't fooling nobody. But
that's the first time they've been exposed to the fact that probably Obama is a shitty politician. That's the first time they've been exposed to the idea.
That's probably the first time, but it's gonna be. I would hope that our content makes the rounds and get to some of these PMCs before they decide to do content. Before they decide to do this bad decision and do content like she did something good, they're gonna see that. Oh, hold on. Okay, no, RVN put it out there that this is some bullshit, so we can't go that route. I would hope, but you never know. Jink and TYT is kind of stubborn. They might go ham at this and be like, "No, look what she's doing. Whether fake or not, whether she has handcuffs, it's figurative." They're gonna make up something.
I can see the TYT statement now. Yes, she wasn't arrested, but AOC's bold action will inspire girls everywhere. Something like that. They always try, or they will say, "Oh, people overreacting."
Yeah, or they'll play it down like they're overreacting, and she'll say, "Well, I wonder what can AOC say? What do you mean? I wasn't pretending to be handcuffed. I was just walking with my hands behind my back. And why did Ilhan do it too? It's a comfortable position for walking. Like, what are they gonna make up, Nick?
They the game that the red team and the blue team play. Like, you see how the blue team picked out Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah. The strategy, and this always been the strategy. Pick out the Looney Tunes, the most extreme of the bunch, and then point to them over and over again and paint your enemy as them. AOC, Ilhan Omar, had truly became the Marjorie Taylor Greene for the Blues. Meaning, like, these are the people that the Republicans, they look toward. They're like, yeah, we know AOC about to do some clown ass shit, so let's put the spotlight on him. That's why you didn't see them do that for Bernie. That's why Bernie was like this obscure senator for a very long time. And once again, this is what all my criticism. You guys know my criticism of Bernie, but you guys know it's the right thing to use Bernie as like a character. If anything, they avoid mentioning him, right? But they want to shine the spotlight on AOC because AOC is the progressive version of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I use that term just so you guys understand what I'm talking about. Because I was about to say the left version of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but the squad is not left. They are imperialists and they are supportive of capitalists. So I use the term progressives just to let you guys know this is the state of the progressive movement. There's nothing progressive about them. There's nothing left about them. Our litmus test is very, very lean.
If imperialism, if imperialism is not a litmus test for the left, a left that's supposed to be built on the idea of liberating the oppressed, do you understand how you're disconnecting that literally from the genesis of the meaning of the purpose of the left to liberate the oppressed? And what does imperialism do?
Yeah, and the reason why I say that we are more lenient than a lot of people think we are, because I'm like you see every once in a while we have a guest that like we agree with on imperialism, capitalism, and someone like, oh my god, you see his take on this thing, or you see this person on this thing. Why you have this person on? Why you have Caleb Maupin on? Why you have Ben Norton on? Because I disagree with them. I'm like, yeah, if you're anti-capitalist, you're anti-imperialist, I'm willing to ignore some other shit. That's what I mean when I say I'm lenient. But if you can't even get to the anti-imperialist part, it's like, bro, the gap is extremely wide at that point.
Because the United States defines it the opposite way, Nick. They define it by saying, I'm left if I believe in $15 minimum wage and healthcare. That's literally almost, it's maybe a couple other things. That's literally all it takes to be like, I'm a left. And in the war part, you can have nuance. When it's literally supposed to be the opposite way, where you have strong stances on imperialism and capitalism, and then maybe have nuance on healthcare, single payer or nationalizing it. That's having a nuanced opinion, a leftist nuanced opinion.
Now, how fucked up is our Overton window that the progressives in being on the left is essentially having Tory economics. Like, you realize that what they're asked is literally what the Tories support in the UK. And the Tories is a right-wing party, but they support healthcare. Like they support more privatization of their healthcare system, but for the most part, they're not running on abolishing their single-payer healthcare system, right? So the basics that we can get is as far left as a Tory, and then if you want anything that actually standing for colonized and workers, like anything far left than that, it's not gonna happen. No, especially not within the Democratic Party.
If you're unwilling to challenge capital, how are you going to be able to liberate the oppressed? That's the problem. That's what we're running into with the PM. We're running into this clash, is that you are not going to be able to liberate. This is why they never want to address these things. The David Sirotas, the Marion Witt. You don't want, in order to challenge capital the way you need to, in order to liberate Black and brown people the way you need to truly liberate them, you have to challenge capitalism, and they're unwilling to do that. Go ahead, Nick.
Look at this picture that's floating around.
Right.
You see how this is the picture that the AOC and Ilhan Omar.
That's the aim. That's the aim for having their hands behind their back. That is the aim right there.
They just gotta mislead their stands. Like, they don't have to win new people over. They just gotta fulfill their role so they can get the people who donate to them to continue to donate for them. But that's crazy. Oh, who's this guy? Well, let's see what he say. Ilhan Omar's faith has a staunch stance on abortion, so I'm not sure how she reconciles. I actually know who the fuck that guy is. But this is what you see.
He's saying some crazy shit.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not sure what the fuck this had to do with anything. Anyway. But you guys, I wanted to show the picture because you guys see how that's the image they want to put out there, and it's harder to correct a mistake than it is to mislead people in the first place, right? That's why if you put all these pictures out there, some may be corrected, but you got enough people thinking, "Oh shit, they was arrested."
Right.
They put in resistance. This is a long term propaganda strategy.
That's actually. Let me interject here. This is why. Let me just make the connection when I say attorneys should not be the ones running our country, because that's actually also a lawyer tactic, where you want to get something out to the jury that you know that's going to be objected and the judge is going to sustain it because you shouldn't be doing this. You just ask that shit anyway and you throw it out there. You know it's going to be restricting, but you can't take it out of the jury's head. You get what I'm saying? So it's the same sort of tactic. As you put this fake shit out there, yeah, people will find out and there'll be an uproar. And, you know, those people who's having an uproar wasn't with them anyway. That's their calculation. They're not with me anyway. The RBN ain't with me anyway. This is AOC talking. So them finding out and them saying it's them doing the stream, that shit don't mean nothing to me. The people who are with me are going to see the front picture, because the people in that circle is only going to be circulating that front picture.
Ooh,
Let me put this back up. Just the reaction of other people. So this is that tweet and all the quote tweets. This is Max Blumenthal. Let me read like 4 or 5 of them. Performative radicalism a day after AOC voted to expand the NATO permanent war alliance to Finland and Sweden, helping edge the world closer to nuclear war. That is the point we're making. Amazing. This is what I'm saying. This is washing that vote. This theater is washing those votes. Oh yeah, this NATO shit. We got to do something about this
and this was planned.
Make people understand. Yes.
And this is because I want to share this real quick, and I'll pass it back.
Yeah, go ahead. Then we can put it back.
This is this is Ilhan Omar's comms director, right? So you think they scheduled this right at the NATO vote happens? So you see, this wasn't like spontaneous. This is something that was planned, which is okay, because that's how activism works, right? You plan
right, it's fine.
But I just want you guys to know it wasn't like something that they decided to do spontaneously. This is something they planned this when the NATO vote came out. Just like Blumenthal said, right? So this is Ilhan's comms strategy director. Members of Congress, including Ilhan Omar, will be participating in a civil disobedience at the Supreme Court, potentially including arrest. They already knew.
It's getting ahead of the narrative. It's getting ahead of the narrative. It's jumping out there. This is why you have comm directors, because they know this is bad news. When it hits the fan, we need to have something to counter it. They know what they're doing. This is why you hire people like this. But hey, let me unabashedly say, hey, like this stream. We'll get back to the content in just a few seconds. Like this stream. We're at 208 likes. We got 370 people watching or more. So can we get to 325? Can we push the likes to 325? Get a bunch of more people in the chat. And we'll get some comments up in just a minute. But let's look at a couple of more comments. Let's see if we find any of our comrades. She is such a stunt queen. There is nothing keeping her hands behind her back. No cuffs, not even a zip tie. So people, Nick, are not necessarily buying this stunt.
She her a stunt queen. Nothing
but a show. Here goes Danny, friend of the show, friend of the network. Danny Haifong of the Black Agenda Report. AOC's decision to appear like she was being arrested and then unironically raise her fist in just peak photo op moment. It's just peak photo op moment. I'm tired. Aren't we all tired? She's not even handcuffed. And then it's some illegible words. She pretend handcuffed. Nobody's buying this. One of the greatest living actress. Oh my gosh. I think I'll leave it there. You get the sentiment. And there's about 4,000, it's approaching 4,000 quote tweet. And I have a hunch that most of them are along those lines.
This is Marjorie Taylor Greene level cringe. Like this is AOC is like the left. I hate saying that, but you guys know what I mean. Like the left version of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's the
to Fox News. She is. To Fox News, she is that just that.
Yeah, and with that said, can I introduce this concept since we're talking about
Absolutely.
AOC, talking helping to expand NATO. So they had a vote today, and only 18 members of Congress. Let me pull up the list. Only 18 members of Congress voted against expanding NATO. Look, and I'll pull the list up. And I told you guys I have been working on a theory here. I'm just gathering evidence in real time. And this is another example of what I believe to be true. Where the establishment learned this new technique, they had to address the fact that people are becoming more anti-imperialist, people are more anti-war. So you have people you elevate as the protagonists, the good guys, right?
Yep.
AOC, the Democratic Party, they are the good guys. Bernie Sanders, they are the good guys. So they got Bernie Sanders and AOC who are fulfilling their role for the duopoly and tricking people. They are there to tweet out bullshit they know is not going to happen. And they're like, oh, we support healthcare. We support Medicare for all. Even though we support the guy who say he's going to veto it. We support a $15 minimum wage. We support unions, even though Joe Biden is giving union busting contracts to Amazon. But I'm still going to say he did a good job. So their job is to talk about good stuff. And then when it comes to very important issues like foreign policy, they get that blatantly wrong. Like they blatantly get the Ukraine shit wrong.
And the PMC class the PMC class allows that sort of washing of leftist sins. They allow that and want the working class to jump on board. And when we don't, we are called the dumb left. Back to you.
And this is and that dumb left is a psyop that they use it for a reason. And that's the same reason they use the horseshoe theory. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is not a good faith actor. She's a right winger. I remember she spoke out and pretended she cared about the baby formula shortage, and she made a great point. Yeah. Like we send all this money to Ukraine, but we don't got baby formula. Then they had a bill that would spend more resources solving the baby formula crisis. She's like, no, I ain't signing that. So she's there to provide a role. So I want to finish my theory because this is the people who voted for it. Like, look, Matt Gaetz. I remember that dude from Florida. Matt Gaetz is a psychopath. And isn't he like a fucking sex pest? Pedo? Fucking Matt Gaetz here. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Boebert, Lauren Boebert. You see on the third one on the left? These are clowns. The people that they paint as the unhinged antagonists. You notice how the establishment allows them to vote no? You guys think that's an accident? 394 to 18. And this is and the reason why I have this theory is because I give Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, I give them no benefit of the doubt. They are just tools following orders. So Marjorie Taylor Greene vote and stands against the Ukraine war. She being solid on the Ukraine war. She stood up for Julian Assange. And now she votes against having Finland and Sweden join NATO because the establishment is trying to paint anyone with a rational idea as the crazy sides. While the AOC and Bernie, the good people who support Medicare for all, they all for the Ukraine war. It's a very complex psyop. You guys see what I'm saying? But anyway, these are the nay votes. Every single member of the squad voted to expand NATO. And I explain this because I've been following this story ever since there was first chatters of Sweden and Finland possibly join NATO. And when I first reported on the time, you guys remember my coverage, I was like, guys, this is fucking crazy because it accomplishes literally nothing other than escalating with Russia.
Antagonize. That's all it is for. There's no other reason for it.
And why is that? Because the message that's been coming from the Swedish Prime Minister, Finland, and the NATO allies was because we have a hostile Russia that is about to take over Europe. So we need A1 to join NATO to stop Russia from taking over Europe, even though the only reason Russia invaded Ukraine was to have a neutral Ukraine and to stop the expansion of NATO. So they say we have to join NATO in order to have protection. But the only thing that will put Sweden and Finland in danger is if they join NATO. And the lies that they have been telling, and the lie that you will hear all over mainstream media, whenever you hear them talking about Finland, Sweden, and NATO, they will say stuff like, well, they have to join NATO because Russia is an unhinged offensive military force. That ignores, and you know, every single report, they never, ever mention the fact that they already get security assurances as an EU state. Already. And these countries on the border of Russia are already de facto NATO. So NATO literally has no purpose. What do I mean by that? So Russia invades Ukraine. Then what happens? Then the West floods billions of dollars of weapons into Ukraine. There is CIA in Ukraine. There is literally UK special operations and forces in Ukraine. This is a de facto NATO country. The same thing will happen. This wouldn't happen, by the way, if you have Russia invading Sweden and Finland. The same fucking thing will happen. The West will all come together and try to repel Russia. So the idea of them joining NATO, what does that accomplish other than Sweden and Finland breaking their contracts of neutrality that they made with Russia in the 90s? Which Russia has long since said was a hard line. When this first floated, and I talked about this, and now many people did, the restraint of Russia. Because despite the fact that when news first dropped, it was like Sweden and Finland and NATO. They're like, all right, we're gonna escalate. We're gonna press the nuclear option if you guys do that as a warning to stop that from happening. So then the West, despite Russia giving a nuclear threat and a threat of World War III, they said, oh, we're gonna do it anyway. Go ahead, you pussy, I dare you. Do you guys see how unhinged the West is? The West just called Russia on their bluff on a nuclear strike and expanding World War III. So a recent
what is
headline,
the point to this? What is the point?
Yeah, PJ, peep this. A recent headline where Russia was like, they didn't expect the West to do this because it's fucking crazy. So they like, Putin was like, oh, never mind, not. Sweden, Finland, if they join NATO, whatever. That's Russia de-escalating. You guys realize that? At first, there was a hard line. Then Russia saw how crazy the West was. And now they're like, fuck, dude. We're not trying to fucking destroy the world here. We just wanted to halt NATO. We wanted a neutral Ukraine. You guys are escalating even more.
It says this comment says Finland's neutrality was signed in 1945. Finland wanted to get ahead of the impending Nazi defeat. Let's not forget Russia was pivotal in defeating the Nazis. They lost the most people in there, so let's remember that. Just throwing comments up. Let's continue with the I mean, we can wrap all of these now together because the first story of AOC fake handcuffing, and we're meshing that with the segment now we're introducing the NATO vote by progressives. But it goes to a broader topic, Nick, of what we've been pushing as a proletariat channel, as a working class channel. What have we been pushing? Stop supporting both parties. Both parties are not good for the working class. Both parties, as you can see, the party that's supposed to be for people of color, how do you think this is going to affect the people of color in other countries? How is that going to affect them, this vote? Like, these votes affect lives. And the question I have for you, Nick, and I guess we can pose it to everybody, but the question I have for you is, what are we seeing here? Are we seeing a realignment? Are we seeing a realignment? Because it's like we're seeing a realignment of leftists completely being detached from electoralism, and the people who call themselves leftists but still participate in it are just liberals and progressives. Because the Overton window is so shifted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say this is more of the same because we did an episode last week where we talked about the professional managerial class and what they get wrong. And you notice that the professional managerial class and the boutique left, which is a new form of this professional managerial class, they always been weak on foreign policy. You notice these same people was the ones pushing Russiagate, which led to this in the first place. So you always had this boutique class, this boutique left class that is more than happy to push the imperialist line. The TYT left was joining with the U.S. State Department on their lines regarding Syria. Still to this day, a lot of these people smearing Aaron Mate as like some sort of dictator lover because he debunked the Syrian narrative. Like Amir Valsa, he famously argues for the U.S. position in Syria. So there's always been this establishment of the left, and they're the one who popped up. They're the one who gets the jobs. These are the one that people love. Another great example of this is Robert Reich. You know, is that guy? Like once again, he would talk about progressive economic ideas, but this motherfucker is all in for the proxy war with Ukraine, right? And any idea, anything that shifts the narrative outside of that, they are not having that. And to me, that makes them no different than just the average liberal, because foreign policy, especially United States foreign policy, has so much impact on not only just our lives as workers, because the amount of resources they extract, the communities that they will turn around and poison, like the military and Navy has done to the Hawaiian indigenous populations, but the working class all over the world with our foreign policy. And the progressives and the left on our side is willing to sell out the global proletariat for very small domestic wins. And what does that say? They will say, well, we have to support the Pentagon. We have to vote for escalating the proxy war in Ukraine. We have to vote to expand NATO to get meager domestic victories. My question to you guys, serious question. Are you a leftist? Are you really a leftist if you're willing to sell out the global South? If you want to sell out victims of U.S. imperialism just so you can get short-term domestic gains? I don't think you are. I think we got to talk about mass solidarity here.
And I think you're pointing.
There's super chat here. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go with that. No, go ahead, read that. And I'm just pointing out some of the other things that AOC and the squad or progressive have done. But go ahead and read that.
I just want to thank Craig for $10. When will empathy guide any political decisions? Empathy literally has absolutely nothing to do with United States policy. I really wish
it doesn't live in Washington, D.C. They've been inoculated by that empathy thing. So let me just read this. So let's see. The squad has supported not forcing the vote on Medicare for all, stealing your money to fund Nazis, funding apartheid Israel, funding the MIC, military industrial complex, funding more wars, funding cops, expanding NATO. How the fuck is this progressives? How the fuck is this progressive? That is a very spot on question. But this list, Nick, goes to the point of what I think it was a stream yesterday or a couple of days ago. Goes to the point of this is how we move to the right. This is how the nation moves right. You move right three ways, and I'm going to play that clip. I'm going to find the clip. You move right three ways. The country moves right. The Democratic Party just sits back and lets the Republican do what they want. The Democratic Party take stances that are right to the right and make it their own. This is that second one. They're taking stances that make it their own. Now it's okay to say I'm a leftist and have these stances. Go ahead, Nick.
This tweet is exactly why I don't get many of them now because I think most people who follow our work know that AOC is a clown. But like when people will get upset for calling out the squad, like this tweet is exactly why. Like, are you guys paying attention? Like, look at the record. Voting for Nancy Pelosi, not forcing the vote on Medicare for all. Stealing your money. That's what it is. That's our money. That's supposed to be caring for our people. They're sending to Nazis. funding the apartheid Israel, funding the military-industrial complex, funding more war, funding cops, expanding NATO. Like, this is what the squad has done. At what point does it become not even edgy to say they are just neoliberal Democrats? Because they are. The best you would get is left-leaning stunts out of them.
I think what I say is we're living in revolutionary times, and during these revolutionary times, when we're having these sort of unmasking events, this is why I was asking you the question about the unmasking. Is another segment I was preparing about how people are leaving the Democratic Party. I mean, you've kind of covered this. People are leaving the Democratic Party, all segments except for like one segment of the population or the groups that they survey is not leaving the Democrat. I think like white males is the only thing, but the working class is gone. The working class is leaving. So if the working class is leaving the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party is becoming more professionalized and more about the police state and more about the military state, aren't we seeing like a realignment of the parties? This is fertile time for a movement. This is fertile time for the birth of another party out of a movement, though. It can't be trying to construct the party into a movement. It has to be a movement first. But your thoughts on any of that? Go ahead.
Yeah, the organizing of the boutique liberal class is now more focused on virtue signaling, more social issues. And I'm not saying these social issues are not important, but that's what they only want to rally behind. That's the only thing they apparently, according to a lot of liberals, like gay and trans people, the only people that are being oppressed right now. Because when we organize around issues that challenge the party directly, like police violence, like black issues, like how you treating the ICE migrant detention centers that Biden has expanded, that's when they're dead silent on those issues. They don't want to hear anything about it. In fact, you had the liberal class that they used to complain about Trump building the wall, and now Joe Biden is building the wall, and they all for it now. They say that's upgraded border technology at the border now. So they now replace their well, I won't say replace that. You can say they always have some sort of form of activism in this way. Instead of being substantive toward the workers, instead of addressing the material needs of people, it's all about using the right language and supporting the right flag. It's all nonsense now, especially in time right now where people are being failed. They don't really have anything other than nonsense parody politics.
It's signaling, yeah. They only have signaling to do because that's all they have, because they know this is the reason why they don't go after the 100 million people that don't regularly vote. Is because those people have to tangibly be given something in order to get their vote, and they know they're not doing that. So they just have to keep finding new ways to signal to people enough to get them out to vote. It's a never-ending cycle for the working class. Go ahead.
Exactly, and that's why I've been paying attention. I've been trying to listen to like their message coming to this next election, which has been hilarious because now we're gonna see even more of this kind of stuff, and it's just been nonstop kind of like the voter shaming. Like people saying like they were like, we can't have this Republican fascist takeover of our government. And that's why we got to come out in droves and vote blue. Meanwhile, workers and people are like, well, no. Are you going to do anything to address our material conditions? No. What about January 6th, though? Do you guys want our democracy to be overturned? Do you guys want the Putin sympathizers to take over our government? They already saying that right now. Remember the list I showed you, the 18 Republicans? They're neoliberal Democrats all over saying they are Putin sympathizers. They're traitors. So that's their message going to 2022 just openly. They're just openly like it had nothing to do about your material conditions. It's about boo-boo, scary Republicans, right? So I pass it back to you, CJ. I'll probably pass it to you rest of the stream. I gotta get ready for my other stream later tonight.
Yeah. That's cool. Whenever you gotta
Yeah.
check out, if you gotta check out now. I'm gonna cover the Manchin story and then kind of be out because we covered both of these. But I'm gonna cover the Manchin story in just a minute. But
Cool,
so
yeah, I got no stream. Yeah, if you don't mind,
tell people what you're doing though, so they know to come back.
Yeah, so I have I'm gonna have Isha K on. She's great on foreign policy. We're gonna talk about the NATO situation even more. That's obviously this is the vote that happened last night. We talk about some Russia, Ukraine. She's a great Marxist educator. So I will be back later tonight. I just had to make some runs, obviously eat and get ready for the show. So at least want to drop in for a little bit. So
absolutely.
Make sure you guys stay tuned. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and make sure you guys check. I'll be live at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna probably do an hour foreign policy conversation. I still I've been out because I've been sick. But I literally had so much shit I wanted to talk about, like the whole Saudi Arabia trip. I was literally been killing. I got so many things I wanted to talk about, but I didn't have the chance. So I see what I can fit in my hour tonight because there's still a lot I want to talk about tonight. But I'll be back later tonight, guys, and have a good rest of the show, CJ.
All right, Nick. See you later, bro. All right, so let's segue to another story or the final story here, and that is the Joe Manchin story. Joe Manchin is a mole, according to some people. Joe Manchin is a Republican plant. I always kind of thought that. Actually, let me make this bigger. But liberals are furious. Liberals and progressives, I'll give them respect. Liberals and progressives are furious. And I just want to show you a couple of short clips to illustrate how furious liberals are over Joe Manchin, the rotating villain.
Biden has spent the last 2 years trying to get Joe Manchin to vote for his Build Back Better bill. But Manchin has spent the last 2 years saying no. He's been giving a variety of answers. I don't want to risk inflation. I don't want to end offshore drilling. I'm a Gemini and Mercury's in retrograde. Now's not a good time to make big decisions. So after a lot of back and forth, Manchin said, look, I'll do a much smaller bill that only has some health insurance expansions and the climate change stuff, and then you can raise taxes on corporations to pay for it. So Democrats took out everything Manchin didn't want and came back last week with a bill that only has what he asked for. To which Joe Manchin said, oh.
More now from Capitol Hill, where Democrats are extremely upset with Senator Joe Manchin after he effectively torpedoed their hopes of acting on climate change. It comes after Manchin told Democratic leadership he is not willing to back major climate and tax provisions in President Biden's agenda. Senator Bernie Sanders was especially upset over the weekend, suggesting Manchin never negotiated in good faith in the first place.
People like Manchin, Sinema to a lesser degree, who are intentionally sabotaging the president's agenda, what the American people want, what a majority of us in the Democratic caucus want. Nothing new about this.
Yep, Bernie's pissed off. Yeah, haven't seen him this pissed since someone tried to give him 1% milk. I stand with the 99% fat milk that's been excluded from the dairy.
All right, I'll leave it on that terrible joke, but you get the point. Now, I think this could be, their natural reaction. But I think the reason they're even being allowed and the mic is being put in front of their face so much is because this also serves the ruling class. Having everybody heard their anger and their anger and pain and frustration to one person instead of the Democratic Party's failure. So maybe, Bernie Sanders feels that way. But the reason they want to invite him on to say that because it fits their narrative also. Don't blame the Democrats. Blame just this one person, the rotating villain. So I have another clip. So let me post this. Let me put this other clip up here. Like I said, I want to show a bunch of short clips to kind of illustrate some of the anger. And then I will show one of the reformist clip. Now this clip here talks about the idea of Joe Biden or Joe Manchin being a Republican plant in the Democratic Party. So let me see if it's up and ready to go. Okay, so let's listen This is a caller into C-SPAN.
Washington, D.C. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think Biden should run if his health allows him to. He's a good president. He's trying to do the best he can. If he don't run, we still got to vote Democrat because the Republicans are going to take us real bad. They already done got started. And I just want to really get this out there. Joe Manchin is a mole in the Democratic Party. He is a mole. He's an undercover Republican. Get him out.
Do you think he's the source of the president's problems, or nothing connected to the president himself as far as his current polling numbers and the like?
The guy hung up.
Oh, he hung up. Let's go to Laura.
He just said what he had to say, but he hung up. But this is not some crazy belief. There's a lot of people who believe this. This has been brought up many times. And he's a Republican plant. Think about it. What emergency stops? There's a lot of emergency stops. The thing that stops the ratchet from moving left. There's a lot of emergency breaks, if you will, set up in our system. The filibuster being one. Joe Manchin, or a rotating villain. Right now it's just Joe Manchin, but a rotating villain is another one. These are all sort of emergency breaks against any help for the working class, any help for the planet, anything that will prohibit capital. That's all these are. This is why we also say here at RBN, you have to understand all of the mechanisms, all the trappings of this terrible system, this rigged system. You think you're going to get these progressives in to change this party? You're not. There's so many obstacles in place. There's so many booby traps in place to stop that very thing from happening. So thinking you're going to use the rigged, corrupt system ran by rigged, corrupt people to fix it, it's just a terrible strategy. Terrible strategy. So let's get back to the clips I wanted to show you. So that it was that one. And then, and there's so many. I'm gonna have to cut these down. Let's go to Pod Save America, which is the podcast for it's Pod Save America. I think it's I don't know if it's some kind of group they are. But anyway, let's listen to their podcast and their framing. Now, this is completely a corporate podcast, and their framing is corporate. They're essentially stumping for the Democratic Party. And let's listen to their take. Not their take, but let's listen to how they talk about the issue. Again, let me see if I can make this bigger. Let me stop it first. Again, you could have the sentiment that he is corrupt. But what I'm saying, what I'm saying is all of what you're saying about Joe Manchin is right. But to pretend like he's the only one that's taking money like this, that he's the only one that has all of these corporate dealings, all these corrupt dealings, all these corrupt ties, is just pretending. And if you know that and you're pretending, that to me, it's saying you're pushing the rotating villain. So like President I said, it serves the ruling class also.
Fight climate change was defeated on Thursday by Joe Manchin, the West Virginia millionaire who became rich from his family's coal business.
Now think about that line. Let me play the line again.
President Biden's plan to fight climate change was defeated on Thursday by Joe.
You see how it wasn't Joe Biden who defeated his climate change plan. Some outside force defeated it. It wasn't me. You see the rotating villain? And then they're allowed to describe it that way now. First, the plan was, it was weak at best. The weak thing that couldn't get through. But now you're able to describe it as his climate change plan was defeated by Joe Manchin, the coal baron. You see how the story lines up? When that was, they were never going to do anything on climate. The Democrats get paid by the fossil fuel industry.
Joe Manchin, the West Virginia millionaire who became rich from his family's coal business and has taken more campaign donations from the oil and gas industry than any other senator. How about that? Fuck. After yet another round of negotiations where Senate Democrats were basically willing to give Manchin whatever he wanted on climate, the wealthy coal baron said he couldn't support any tax or energy provisions until at least September because he wants to see if inflation improves by then. That's the latest excuse.
The thing that's so infuriating about this, John, is that all the smart economists, not us, smart economists say that Build Back Better and these climate provisions would not lead to inflation because we're talking about climate spending over a decade. And they're all offset by tax increases, right? So none of what he's saying, none of this logically makes sense. It's okay to be concerned about inflation. It's sure you're concerned about the deficit, but he's taking actions that don't make sense given those concerns. And that is what makes this conversation so infuriating.
He got everything he fucking asked for in these latest negotiations in climate. First of all, he got rid of the clean energy standard in the last round of negotiations. In this round, he got oil and gas production included. He got the electric vehicle credits out. He changed the direct payments for energy companies.
Look at all the stuff that was taken out of the bill that they were just touting as the Joe Biden plan to do. You listen to the things they're talking about wasn't in it.
To tax incentives for clean energy companies. Like, he got everything. And then what happened is because Schumer kept saying yes to everything, he's like, oh, fuck, I just got everything I wanted. Now I'm going to have to say yes.
Yeah.
So he needed a new excuse.
Yep.
It's bullshit. President Biden's plan to fight.
And this podcast is pretty bullshit. But you see their attempt to use this. They have this corporate Democrat who takes corporate money. And like I said, but there's hundreds of them that do that. But they're trying to act like the money he take is somehow different than the money that everybody else takes from corporations that affect their vote. I'll go to some comments in just a second, but let me see what the next video would be. So that's the Podcast America video. There's so many different ones, but I want to get all of them in. Let's get Ilhan Omar in here for this next one. Ilhan Omar speaks about Joe Biden. It's pretty based. I mean, Joe Manchin. It's kind of the same thing, I guess. Joe Manchin, Joe Biden, whatever. Let's see. Let's look at Ilhan Omar's reaction to this in the caption. This is her tweeting out this video, by the way. Joe Manchin should not be leading the Senate Energy and Natural Resource Committee. But that's the very reason why he's voting in the manner that he's voting, because he has the position that he has and getting paid by the certain people that he's getting paid by. Which is the same reason why, which is a similar reason why, for example, some people get money from healthcare insurers, which is why they don't want to bring up a vote on Medicare for all. Same thing. But like I said, they want to act like Joe Manchin on this specific issue is the only one when there's almost everybody in the party is doing this.
It's really disappointing, not surprising. We knew when the Build Back Better agenda was decoupled that this was ultimately going to happen. I don't know why Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer still allows for Manchin to be the chair of the Energy Committee. I don't know why our party hasn't decided to, make the case and pressure Manchin to do the right thing in advancing the Democratic agenda and the president's agenda. I think we ultimately have to come to terms that what we are doing at the moment and the way that we are dealing with Manchin isn't working in advancing the Democratic agenda and the president's agenda. And so we must change course.
All right, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it.
It's almost like we're all pretending for each other. Like we're all like none of this stuff is going to go through the Democratic Party. It's not. And it feels like we're fighting a fight we know that's not going to happen. But that's the whole that's the whole thing that's the whole thing of electoral politics that we have to be done with. They want to have a rigged system, vote for the person you vote for, and then walk away and go ahead and do all the direct action. Go feed the homeless, go feed the unhoused, go house the unhoused, go help somebody, go do some mutual aid. Let's work towards building something outside of the government. So that's our strategy. Anyway, let's go to the next video. I'm trying to narrow these down and not do so many, but like I said, there are a lot of them. Let's go to one of the more, like one of the initial ones. Actually, no, let's go to this one. Let's go to the reaction of the White House, supposedly. They're even being a part of this whole I'm upset kind of thing. They're jumping in on this fake outrage. I'm saying it's fake from their point of view because there's no repercussions for him. So let's go to this video. This is Case Study QB. Thank you for curating this video for us. I think this is MSNBC, and they're covering how Joe Biden, supposedly, the White House is tired of Joe Manchin, supposedly. So let's listen to this 1-minute video. Case Study QB, shout out.
White House frustration levels with Manchin are off the charts, according to advisors that I speak to, who are so tired of him saying one thing in public, one thing in private, behind the scenes saying, yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. And then public saying, no, 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 I won't. And he has now, Manchin said, well, we could revisit climate change and maybe provisions later this summer. No one in the White House thinks that will actually happen. They've heard this before. And also about the timing when he has said no. Let's remember last December when he officially pulled the plug on Build Back Better. How did he do so? On Fox News. This one, where he says, no, I'm not going to be for this larger measure. When did he do it? When the president was in Saudi Arabia talking to the crown prince, a controversial visit about oil. And here is Joe Manchin back home killing climate change provisions. So there is just a real sense here of just anger at Manchin and a sense of regret that Biden wasn't more personally involved all along, deferring too much to Schumer when he should have been the one perhaps in the room with Manchin, having him right.
We all know that Joe Biden is mentally compromised, and maybe that's the reason why he's not doing none of these negotiations. He said it. I'm not doing any of these negotiations. Does he have the capacity to do that? These negotiations? And what negotiation? Why does he need to talk to Joe Manchin? Just go directly to the people that's funding him. Negotiate with them. What I want to play also is, you hear the criticism that Bernie Sanders had for Joe Manchin, but Heidi Heitkamp, I think that's how you say her name. Listen to what she says about what Bernie Sanders has to say about Joe Manchin. So this is her thoughts of what Bernie Sanders is saying about what Bernie Sanders is saying about Joe Manchin. So Heidi Heitkamp, that's how you say it, yeah. Let's play it. This is another clip from Case Study QB. Is this the right? Yeah, this is the right window. Let me.
And I love.
Pause it. And let's play it. This one's 45 seconds.
And, I love Bernie. I think he is absolutely committed to what he's saying, but his criticism of Manchin isn't that relevant, right? He's going to be critical, has been critical since day one. The question is, what is Catherine Cortez Masto saying to Bernie? The people who are in a little tougher races, what is, the Senator Hassan from New Hampshire saying, and how do these senators who are in tough midterm races, how are they reacting right now? Because they would love something to come home to that they can say, look what we've gotten done, whether it's $35 insulin, whether it is the expansion of subsidies for Obamacare, whether it is negotiation on prescription drugs.
It's almost, it's just like it's a strategic game to them, and it's not about improving the material lives of people. It's just to get a win here. It's just to get a win here. It's to strategize to do that. Just bothers me. So anyway, let's listen to a little bit more of Bernie Sanders' interview that I wanted to play. This is also Case Study QB. Thank you for, is this the right? Okay. Yeah, I got to put it over here. Thank you also for this new clip. This third clip I'm going to show from Case Study QB. This one is the Bernie Sanders interview. It's the full interview. I'm not going to play the full interview, but I want to play more than the, I think it was 45 seconds we played earlier. So this is Bernie Sanders speaking. Where is that? There we go. Let's listen to a little more of Bernie Sanders.
President Biden is back from his trip, a trip that has gotten a lot of blowback from even your fellow Democrats, especially that fist bump with the Saudi crown prince. You've referred to Saudi Arabia as a brutal dictatorship that crushes democracy. Should Biden have gone?
No, I don't think so. You have a leader of that country who was involved in the murder of a Washington Post journalist. I don't think that type of government should be rewarded with a visit by the President of the United States.
But at the heart of the discussions was oil, and President Biden said that Saudis would take action in the coming weeks. Could that make a difference? And doesn't that explain why he went? What would you have done?
Well, I'm sure that that is why he went. But the truth of the matter is, if you're looking at the outrageously high cost of gas at the pumps right now, one of the things we've got to look at is the fact that while Americans are now paying $4.50, $4.80 for a gallon of gas, the oil company profits in the last quarter have been extraordinarily high. And I happen to believe that we've got to tell the oil companies to stop ripping off the American people. And if they don't, we should impose a windfall profits tax on them.
So would you just ignore the Saudis if you were president?
Look, you got a family.
You notice how corporate media is almost offended that Bernie Sanders won't overlook this about the Saudis. You mean there's no dollar amount that can buy you off on this? But that's the point of view of the people who's supposed to be supporting, reporting the truth to us about them.
Family that is worth $100 billion, which crushes democracy, which treats women as third-class citizens, which murders and imprisons its opponents. And if this country believes in anything, we believe in human rights, we believe in democracy. And I just don't believe that we should be maintaining a warm relationship with a dictatorship like that.
And I want to go back to the economy. How concerned are you about a recession?
Well, what I am really concerned about is that increasingly, Martha, and I think most Americans know this, we are moving rapidly into an oligarchic form of society. You know, we talk about the economy doing poorly for the working class, for the middle class. That's true. But we should also recognize the economy is doing extraordinarily well for the people on top, for the billionaires who have seen a $2 trillion increase in their wealth during this pandemic while 1 million Americans died. So the struggle must be to create an economy that works for all, not just the people on top, a political system which is not dominated by super PACs and billionaires, a media which is not owned by large corporations. And I think the American people, what is very clear, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or independent, people looking at Washington and they're saying, you know what? You don't represent me. You don't know what's going on in my life. I can't afford health care. I can't afford the cost of prescription drugs. I can't afford childcare. What are you doing about it? And what people are doing about it is taking money from super PACs or being influenced by super PACs, and the rich get richer.
Senator, I want to turn.
All about people to, yeah, go ahead.
Senator, I want to
Can't talk about super PACs.
turn to Congress and the.
So now let's get to the Joe Manchin part. I also wanted to hear, hear his critique on the Saudi part, because I'm not sure we cover that in this segment, but we cover it. Wanted to get thoughts in on that.
Agenda there. Senator Joe Manchin, of course, abruptly pulled the plug this week on the Democrats'
No, Martha, he didn't abruptly. Martha,
Okay,
Martha, let me respectfully
he
disagree.
abruptly on Friday
He didn't
did
abruptly
that.
do anything.
He was
has
negotiating
sabotaged
for a
the
while.
president's agenda. No. Look, if you check the record 6 months ago, I made it clear that you have people like Manchin, Sinema to a lesser degree, who are intentionally sabotaging the president's agenda, what the American people want, what a majority of us in the Democratic.
It sounds like Bernie Sanders is saying what that caller said into C-SPAN, that Joe Manchin is a Republican plant or a corporate plant in the Democratic Party, and Sinema to a lesser extent. So let's listen some more, but that's what I'm deriving from what Bernie Sanders is saying at that part. On that part.
Caucus what? Nothing new about this. And the problem was that we continue to talk to Manchin like he was serious. He was not. This is a guy who is a major recipient of fossil fuel money, a guy who has received campaign contributions from 25 Republican billionaires. You think this guy is serious?
Senator, okay, you say he wasn't serious, but Manchin says his main goal is to do what's good for West Virginia, and he's worried about inflation. Listen to what he told the West Virginia radio station. Listen to this, please.
Bernie Sanders can't stand him.
Is absolutely killing many, many people. They can't buy gasoline. They have a hard time buying groceries. Everything they buy and consume for their daily lives is a hardship to them.
Your reaction to that, Senator?
Well, look, the same nonsense that Manchin has been talking about for a year. West Virginia is a beautiful state. I've had the pleasure of being there. Great people. It is one of the poorest states in this country. You ask the people of West Virginia whether they want to expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and eyeglasses. You ask the people of West Virginia whether we should demand that the wealthiest people in large corporations start paying their fair share of taxes. Ask the people of West Virginia whether or not all people should have health care as a human right like in every other country on earth. That's what they will say. In my humble opinion, Manchin represents the very wealthiest people in this country, not working families in West Virginia or America.
And Senator Sanders, I want to end with, if these provisions don't get passed, doesn't look like they will, what does that mean for Democrats' climate goals and the climate itself?
Martha,
What does it mean?
Democrats.
It's going to mean for you too.
It is the future of the...
I know. That's what I was just getting to. Like, what do you mean? Your family's going to die too. Like, it's almost like they think that if you don't believe, that's the word they use, I don't believe in climate. What does that have to do with anything? What does your belief or lack thereof have to do with the actuality of the planet going away? Or life, the sustainability of life on this planet going away? Like, what does that have to do, your belief in that? It has nothing to do with anything. Who cares what your belief is? Anyway, let's play a little more.
The planet. So when Manchin sabotages climate change, this is for future generations. What's going on right now in the West, all over the world, we're looking at significantly increased, more and more heat waves. You're going to look at more drought, more flooding. This is an existential threat to humanity. And what this election must be about is whether or not we're going to vote for candidates who are prepared to stand up for working people, stand up for the planet, and have the courage to take on the billionaire class who dominates our economy and our political life. That's what this election is about. The Republican Party is not there. We need more progressive Democrats who are going to fight for workers.
If only that was the way to do it, Bernie. It is just not the way. And you are an example of that in many ways. But let me play one last clip. Or not one last clip. Let me play the next clip. I'm not sure this will be the last clip, depending on the discussion here. But let's see what Joe Biden thinks of this. So there's this clip. Let's see. Let's play this Joe Biden. A reporter shouts out a question to Joe Biden, and let's see his reaction. It's about Joe Manchin. Let's see what his reaction is, or let's hear what his reaction is in this video here. Oh, I got a commercial on this. What kind of video is this? Who is this with? So let me pause it there. And let's make this bigger. All right, so it's a very, very short video, like 8 seconds. And so let's listen to closely to what Joe Biden says.
Mr. President, is Joe Manchin negotiating in good faith?
I didn't negotiate with Joe Manchin. I have no idea.
Mr. President, is Joe Manchin negotiating in good faith?
I didn't negotiate with Joe Manchin. I have no idea.
One last time.
Mr. President, is Joe Manchin negotiating in good faith?
I didn't negotiate with Joe Manchin. I have no idea.
So he didn't negotiate with Joe Manchin. Just some randoms was negotiating with him, I guess. But no, it was someone else negotiating. I mean, is he in the capacity to do any negotiating in his mental state? I would say no. All right, so save the best for last. Let's get to the last video because it's the longer video. It's oh, here it goes right here. Bernie Sanders, this is a new video they made. Let's go to the one I know, which is this one, sabotage. Okay. All right, so let me share my other screen, unless I can bring this video over. It's a commercial. Oh, wait. Trying to see if this, why does this look like this is not the right video? Let me make sure. Okay, it is the right video. Not sure why. All right, so let me share a different screen. We're gonna bring up the Humanist Report. His take on, oops, I meant to hit share, not turn off camera. His take on Joe Manchin, the whole situation with him. But I do like his take a little bit better. And like I said before, Humanist Report, of all the people who are sort of still in the left, the reformist camp, he's the one I can stomach the most because he still used some of the same language that he used before when he was backing Bernie and against Joe Biden. He still kind of critically talks about him sometimes, not always. He gives him more credit than I would give him, but he does critique him. And in this video, there is a critique of the Democratic Party. So let's listen to this video with the Humanist Report.
Senator Joe Manchin, of course, abruptly pulled the plug this week on the Democrats'
No, Martha, he didn't abruptly. Martha,
okay, he abruptly on Friday.
He didn't abruptly do anything.
He was negotiating for a while.
The president's agenda.
So we just literally just saw this. So I'm gonna fast forward to the end of that exchange because we literally just saw this so that we can move for time. So let's move forward.
Represents the very wealthiest people in this country, not working families in West Virginia or America.
That was Senator Bernie Sanders condemning Joe Manchin for what he is, a saboteur. This is not a good faith actor, and it is long past time for the Democratic Party to stop treating him as if he's a good.
So again, we're showing, or I'm showing all of these videos to prove the point or show the point that progressives are furious with Joe Manchin. So, there's a bunch of Joe Manchin videos. You're not going to be able to find too many AOC videos after on the NATO vote. But you'll find a ton of Joe Manchin. Just type in Joe Manchin and all of them. TYT will pop up. Rational National will pop up. Of course, it will pop up. Circular Talk, I'm sure, will do one. His videos are usually late. But let's listen to the Humanist Report's take on Joe Manchin and the whole rotating villain concept.
A good faith actor who's just really looking out for the needs of his constituents, and he keeps tanking climate legislation or anything with regard to climate change or environmental issues because he's worried about inflation. He doesn't care. So it's time to stop pretending as if this is a good faith actor. And that's what Bernie Sanders is speaking to here. This is somebody who is a saboteur. Now, if you've watched this program for a while, I've talked about how Manchin has used his political career to financially benefit his coal company, and also how his ties to the fossil fuel industry, more broadly speaking, are extensive. So it's not like this connection to the fossil fuel industry is some obscure fact. It is now public knowledge. Even mainstream media has extensively detailed the
Right. And the reason this is kind of the one that is okay for them to use this attack is because they're using him as the rotating villain. Because literally this attack of taking corporate money and that affecting your vote, people whose vote is one way on healthcare, and they're taking money from a health insurance company. That's the same concept. But the reason you don't see this on corporate media and at the level that they allow with Joe Manchin is because this one is approved. This is approved to use that tactic against him, to use that critique against him and not others.
The way that he has used his political career to benefit not just the fossil fuel industry, but his coal company. So it's time for the Democratic Party to take action and punish him, because just letting Manchin be Manchin has been a colossal failure. And that's what Ilhan Omar said in an interview on MSNBC. She said it's time for the Democratic Party leadership to take action. Here's what she said.
It's really disappointing, not surprising. We knew when the Build Back Better agenda was decoupled that this was ultimately going to happen. I don't know why Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer still allows for Manchin to be the chair of the Energy Committee. I don't know why our party hasn't decided to, make the case and pressure Manchin to do the right thing in advancing the Democratic agenda and the president's agenda. I think we ultimately have to come to terms that what we are doing at the moment in the way that we are dealing with Manchin isn't working in advancing the Democratic agenda and the president's agenda. And so we must change course.
She's absolutely correct. It's time for people to stop looking at Manchin exclusively and also start directing their ire at the Democratic Party's leaders, because they have done nothing to rein in rogue members of their caucus. Chuck Schumer is the Senate Majority Leader. Why is he allowing a modern-day coal baron to serve as the chair of the Senate Energy?
Why do you think he is? Like, these aren't coincidences or happenstance, and these conflicts, we just kind of go, oh, it's just this, it's all right. No, it's not. He's serving as the chair, and he owns a coal company. You understand the absurdity of that? Like saying you're pro-choice, but nominating an anti-choice judge to a lifetime seat.
Committee.
Please don't click away. I'm
Oh,
Stacey
God.
Abrams,
Let's
and I
listen
have
to
an
this,
urgent
though.
request.
Let's listen to
Will
this
you
one.
sign our petition now to protect voting rights? Republicans across the country are passing bills to restrict our right to vote. We're fighting back.
Just terrible.
I mean, there's kind of a conflict of interest there. No, he is a coal baron. His family owns a coal company. Throughout his career, even when he was a state senator.
But this is what I'm saying about people who still support the Democrats. How do you explain this? You just go, oh, they couldn't do it. They didn't figure it. Like, how do you explain the Democrats doing this? You're still supporting them, and they're doing this terrible stuff, and you have this critique, but you're still trying to support them. Voting progressive Democrats on to the Democratic team is supporting the Democrats. The people in leadership aren't progressive. So this is what I don't get. It's like, yeah, all of this and Manchin and Democrats, and they're all to blame, but then you continue to support them. What incentive do they have to change if you don't stop supporting them? hopefully there's a couple of liberals listening,
senator in West Virginia,
whose ear we have for this conversation, that we can flip and stop supporting this insane concept of supporting the Democratic Party.
Virginia, and governor. He did everything in his power to make sure that that company was benefited by his policies. And yet he serves as the chair of the Senate Energy Committee. Why is Chuck Schumer allowing this to happen? More importantly, why has the president of the United States not publicly condemned Manchin even a single time? He'll vaguely refer to two.
It's because they're down for what he's doing. This is the point I'm saying. Chuck Schumer is keeping him on a committee. If AOC or Bernie Sanders did something that they didn't like, you think Bernie Sanders is going to stay as the chair of this committee? If you're not getting disciplinary actions against things they're supposedly doing against Joe Biden and his party, but they're not getting any sort of disciplinary action, what do you think that means?
2 votes that he's missing in the Senate. But as president, you can use your bully pulpit to exert maximum pressure. I mean, you've tried just letting Manchin do his thing, treating him as if he is a good faith actor, and that has failed colossally. So now it's time for people to start directing their ire at Biden and members of the Democratic Party establishment who refuse to rein in Joe Manchin. And just to give you a sense of how self-serving this politician is, Manchin has taken steps actually to protect the environment. It's just the environment where his Manchin is located. As Daniel Boguslav, The Intercept, writes, while Manchin has sabotaged federal efforts at combating climate change, he has used federal dollars to preserve his own corner of the world. Public records reviewed by The Intercept show that even after Manchin's decades-long efforts to upend environmental policy that would undercut the fossil fuel companies funding his political campaigns and the waste coal industry generating his personal fortune, he and his wife Gail Manchin have directed millions of federal dollars to a small, pristine valley in West Virginia, where the couple owns a condo, hundreds of miles north of the coal communities decimated by the mountaintop removal mining that Manchin fostered in the state. The Manchin's Canaan Valley residence sits in an unadulterated watershed surrounded by the Dolly Sods Wilderness, the Canaan Valley National Wildlife Refuge, and Blackwater Falls State Park. The couple purchased the condo in Davis, West Virginia in 2011, according to the deed. In 2018, Manchin used his spot on the powerful Senate Appropriations Committee to secure $7 million to rebuild the visitor center at the Canaan Valley National Wildlife Refuge, less than a mile from his condo. So he cares about the environment. It's just the environment where his condo is, not the planet that we all live on. Because when it comes to the habitability of our planet, Joe Manchin is old, so he's not going to see the worst of what climate change has to offer. So long as the environment around him is protected, then he's okay with that. So this is the type of person who.
You're right, and I thought what I was expressing is that this is not a Manchin problem. This is a rotating villain. This is the ruling class emergency stop to legislation. This is what they do. The types of things they have. He's here for when the Democrats have the White House, the Senate, and the House. You have to have somebody on the team that is the rogue person. So, but from their point of view, the ruling class is trying to present it through their PR media, their PR arm, the media, corporate media, is that this is a Manchin problem. Joe Biden is for all the watered down climate action in the bill. It's Joe Manchin. You see? That's it. Just Joe Manchin. So from their point of view, they call it the Manchin problem. But we understand that this is a Democratic problem, and Manchin is just the sacrificial lamb that they're using. He's in a safe state where Republicans, he doesn't need Democrats to vote for him to be elected. It's strategic. You have to understand. You think they just found that out? Do you think he just didn't tell the president, or do you think it was coordinated with the White House for this news to come out while he was gone? Or do you really think the guy who's giving his wife a job, he didn't know? This is all coordinated. They're being paid by the same people. let's continue with Mike.
Who we're dealing with. He is the textbook example of a bad faith actor, and the Democratic Party establishment has done nothing to rein him in. They're too busy condemning progressives and trying to stop progressives from winning primary campaigns against incumbent corporate Democrats. So yes, it is true that everything that Bernie Sanders is saying here is accurate about Joe Manchin, but it is time for the president to understand that if he does not act, the failure is on him, not on Manchin. When you look back at the history book, sure, Manchin is going to have a role here, but ultimately this is going to be a failure of the Biden administration. And so one criticism that I have of Bernie Sanders and Ilhan Omar is that as much as it's evident that Joe Biden is too afraid to criticize Manchin, progressives have got to stop being too afraid to criticize Joe Biden. Call out Joe Biden, call on him to do more. Now, thankfully, Ilhan Omar did that there, but Bernie Sanders has been really reluctant to criticize Joe Biden. And maybe that's because he feels as if he has the president's ear, then he can influence him in a positive direction. But I'm sorry, Bernie, that's been a demonstrable failure. So now it is time to condemn Biden for not exerting pressure on Manchin. Biden could threaten to fire his wife, Manchin's wife, who he gave a job to. Biden could threaten to use the DOJ to investigate Manchin's daughter, who was involved in a price-fixing scheme regarding EpiPen when she was a big pharmaceutical CEO. There are things that Biden can do, extraordinary measures that Biden can take, but at a minimum, just name and
So this is the reason why I picked this video, because like I said, TYT has a video with Jank. What's the other? Majority Report has a video. So they all have, they do content on this. But I picked this because at least he also talks about how this falls on the lap of the Democratic Party. But let's listen to the last minute and a half of this video.
Shame him. Do you think that Donald Trump, when he was president, would allow just 2 senators to destroy his entire agenda whenever they were blocking, whenever Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins were holding up Trump's agenda? He condemned them. He condemned people who he called rhinos. It's time for Biden to stop sitting idly by and letting people like Manchin dictate his presidency. But you see, the thing about this is Biden is not calling out Joe Manchin because I think that deep down he agrees with Manchin.
Yeah,
I mean, actions speak louder than words. So if you just let somebody dictate the terms of your presidency, let somebody dictate what you claim is your agenda, then I'm sorry, you're complicit in that. So this is where we're at. Bernie Sanders and Ilhan Omar are absolutely correct, but nothing is going to change. Manchin will continue to sabotage the Democratic Party's agenda, purposefully so, until the Democratic Party itself, its leaders, takes action to rein in Joe Manchin.
So let's take another look at a video. This is a tweet here I'll put up. I can put it up in place of this video, so let's put it here. This tweet has another, just to show you the outrage. I'm just trying to prove the point that all this coverage of Joe Manchin and corporate media wanting to cover it and he's corrupt and cold, it's in it being allowed to go on is because it benefits the narrative also. So keep that in mind. So let's watch this clip. I forget what is his name. One of the twin brothers doing the interview in this video. So let's watch this. I think they're gonna pop his name up and then I'll say it. Manchin cites inflation concerns in shooting down bill. That's the title.
Now, your group focuses on supporting candidates who don't take corporate cash. Have you been approached by people looking to challenge Senator Manchin in the 2024 primary? And if they do you think that they stand a chance at actually defeating him?
Yes, and it's going to be hard. We have been approached. People can make donations at replacejoemanchin.com. That site has been up for a year because, as Senator Sanders said, as you said, this ain't new. But it really is going to take a different way of looking at this. Over the last year, the national media, the national leadership of the party has played Manchin's game and made him stronger in the meanwhile, right? The donations have poured into Manchin from Exxon, from Big Pharma. So he is in a stronger position than he was a year ago because of the mistaken strategy of national Democrats and national media who want to ride this Manchin roller coaster. What we're offering people is an alternative, a way to build an infrastructure that not only can win in 2024, but can be around for the next 2, 3, 4 decades and offer people a real choice.
They're always selling us a real choice that never does anything for us. And I'm saying us as in the working class. They're always selling us change. Every 4 years, how is this a change election? Every 4 change from what when it's been the same? But here's another clip. This one, this is also that first one was from Peacock, which owns MSNBC, or which has the same owner. This one is technically from MSNBC, and let's listen. This one says, this one kind of talks about the older constituents, and then they also bring in the Joe Manchin. She comments, they're talking
Performance. Is it a
they're talking about, this is a better way of saying it. They're talking about young voters being fed up with Democratic leadership being so old, and then they throw in something about Joe Manchin too. That's why we're playing it in this segment. So let's listen.
Christina, a New York Times survey found that just 1% of 18 to 29-year-olds strongly approve of President Biden's job performance. Is it unusual for presidents to be this unfavorable with that particular age demo?
I mean, Joe Biden, to be clear, was never the youth vote candidate. It was another very old man, Bernie Sanders, in 2020. But what the poll did show us is that young voters really do care about progressive policy change. They are voting for Democrats, and they're overwhelmingly repulsed by Republicans, but they are determined for the Democratic Party to be remade. And just what we saw, what Joe Manchin did, Joe Manchin picked his stock portfolio and his investments, his personal investments, over the survival of our entire planet and an entire generation of Americans.
This is what I mean. This is MSNBC. The reason they have this cutout where you can use that critique on corporate media is because there's a cutout for Joe Manchin, because he's the approved rotating villain. Because this same critique where you're picking your stock portfolio, Nancy Pelosi, over constituents or over the American people happens all the time. But you can't criticize Nancy Pelosi on that point.
America's young people. So young people see that at best, this is a conflict of interest or outright corruption by a candidate that hasn't been serving in the interests, especially of America's young people, whether it comes to guns, it comes to climate change, or it comes to raising the minimum wage.
So there's that video there. There is another kind of part of this story that is about Joe Biden. I guess I can kind of get this ready. Let's go back to YouTube here. Let me see if I have this video set up for us to watch I think it's in Watch Later or something like that. But it's a video I wanted to play. I was preparing a segment about how terrible Joe Biden is and just all the failures of Joe Biden. Let me see if it's in my Watch Later here. Let's see. So I'm not wondering, I want to see if it's here. It could be in a different account. It may not even be here, but let's see if it's here. I don't think so, unless more is going to open up here. Oh, it does. So, okay, so it could be here. Oh, I have the Young Turks version. And so you see, like I was saying, so just so you can see the receipts here at the bottom, let me take this off here. When I was telling you, everybody did a video. So I had this prepared as if I was going to use it. And you can see this is Young Turks talking about Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin. And then this is the Majority Report with Sam Cedar talking about the same thing, being an obstructionist. So yeah, what is it? Let me just check and see if it's here. I don't see that it's here, but I can find it. Let's go CNN, Joe Biden. Clip is from Joe. Few Americans. I think this is it right here. Yep, this is it.
When Payne says,
or actually, this is one of them because there's another one. Where did I see that? Oh, that one's on YouTube too. The actual one I wanted to use. But let's listen to this about Joe Biden. So we're talking about Joe Manchin, but we're also including Joe Biden and how terrible both these people are, because we just have to talk briefly about how terrible Joe Biden is and how the American people is saying it out loud, saying it in polls. Let's listen.
Let's dig deeper into those new poll numbers from CNN, because it's not just a low approval rating. Numbers show that many Americans share a somber outlook on the state of our nation. Let's bring in CNN political director David Callion to help us break it all down. David, what's the mood of the United States right now?
Yeah, somber is a good word, Jake. Sour, totally disappointed, disgruntled. Any of those words gets at how bad Americans sort of perceive the state of things right now. How well are things going in the country today? Only 21% say things are going well. I want to put that in some historical context for you. 21% is the low point. This goes back, in fact, off this chart, Jake, you have to go back to 2009 to find a time when the American electorate was this dissatisfied with the way things were going in the country. And when we ask specifically about economic conditions and we say, can you rate the economic conditions today? Look at this number.
How would you rate the economic conditions? 8 out of 10 people say it's poor.
82% of respondents in this poll say economic conditions in America are poor. Only 18% say that economic conditions are good right now, Jake.
David, how do Americans think President Biden is handling the country and specifically these economic concerns?
Well, you showed his overall job approval rating a bit earlier. Here it is again. The 38% approve, 62% disapprove. This is a numeric low mark for the president in CNN polling, but he's been in this low range, which is a big warning sign, of course, for his party. But I would also note Republicans and independents have stayed pretty consistent. One of the reasons his numbers have gone down a bit, Jake, is because he's losing support among his fellow Democrats. Then we asked folks, how's he doing on a series of issues? 46% approval on the situation in Ukraine, 39% approval on immigration. But take a look at these numbers here. On the economy, he's at 30% approval, below his overall approval. And on inflation, only 25% of respondents approve of how the president is tackling what is the most pressing issue by far, people say, in terms of how the economy is impacting their family.
How is Biden doing compared to his predecessors?
One way we look at that, Jake, we ask folks, do you believe Joe Biden has the right priorities? Okay, so right now, only 31% say yes, President Biden has the right priorities. 68% say no. This is up 10 points since we scored this last year in the Biden presidency. So now let's take a look at how that 31% who say yes, he has the right priorities stacks up against his modern era predecessors. Look at that.
Let's look at that.
Not very well.
Biden is last. You know how they say I always want to point to Trump being the last? Biden is last. Like Trump beats him in this particular poll or about this particular question by 13 points.
31% for Biden is clearly the low water mark of all Trump, Obama, Bush, and Clinton on this score, Jake.
That's shocking. David Callion, thanks so much. Let's bring in CNN business correspondent Rahel Solomon and the national correspondent for the Washington Post, Philip Bump. Rahel, those numbers show Americans are very concerned about the economy and inflation. Are those concerns justified?
Well, I think Americans are
It's a ridiculous question. Are those concerns justified? Questioning. It's like, are we to believe these peasants? Are these peasants, how they feel? Are they justified? Let me go to another. I believe, yeah, it was a CNN because I think it's Abby, the black anchor, or one of the black anchor, or I think the black anchor they have. Where is that? Yeah, I think it's here. No, intentionally sabotaging. She covers that also. But what I want to cover is this one right here.
Winter is coming.
Very interesting conversation they have here. Expert says Democrats face a big problem winning future elections. So let's listen to this segment on CNN with Abby Phillips, I believe her name is.
But there are some signs now that that coalition is changing. In the 2014 midterms, for example, the Hispanics went for Democrats by 26 points. And in a new poll last week, that advantage has shrunk to 3. On the other hand, an even bigger shift is happening among college-educated whites. In 2014, they went for Republicans by 14 points, and now they favor Democrats by a whopping 21-point margin. And joining me now to discuss all of this is Roy Teixeira. He's written several books about demographics and politics, and will soon be joining the American Enterprise Institute as a non-resident fellow. And we also still have Tamara Keith with us from NPR. So Roy, I want to start with you on this. This is something that you know a lot about. This shift is happening, but is it really that big of a problem for Democrats, or is it just a shift that needs to happen because they are appealing to college-educated whites, or college-educated voters in general?
Yeah, no, I think it's a pretty big problem. I mean, if you look at the realities of American electoral politics, the fundamental political arithmetic and geography of the country, to be losing support as much as they are among working class voters in general, Hispanic voters, it's very bad for them. It makes it very difficult for them to cobble together the coalition they need overall, and in a lot of states and congressional districts to achieve the political success they want. So it's very non-trivial. I mean, if you look at the New York Times Siena poll, the data show that Democrats are actually losing working class voters as a whole by 11 points and carrying college-educated voters as a whole by 23 points. That's a massive shift, a yawning chasm, which suggests that the historic party of the working class in the United States maybe is no longer the party of the working class. And that's a big problem. I don't think you can win on that basis in this country.
The other side of it is this erosion with non-white voters, with Hispanic voters especially, but also with Black voters. As the Republican Party really hasn't shifted. I mean, from the time Trump has come down the escalator, demonizing immigrants, he has really taken the other strategy. And yet, in 2020, every Republican who flipped a Democratic House seat was a woman or a person of color. They are touting that as an example. What do you think is behind that?
Yeah, and I was talking to a Republican consultant just this week who pays a lot of attention to House races, who says, look at our recruiting this time too in the midterms, that they have found candidates who are people of color, who are women, who in certainly not in terms of policy, but in terms of demographics, look a lot like the candidates who were successful Democratic candidates in recent years. We have talked about this idea for years and years and years that demographics are destiny, but as you point out, those demographics are shifting, and now the demographic that may be destiny, the biggest dividing line is college educated versus not college educated.
I mean, that idea of demographics as destiny is literally something that you popularized, Roy. I mean, what do you think is going on there, especially with non-white voters?
Right. Well, first of all, let me clarify. We never said demographics is destiny. Our argument was that there are a variety of changes taking place in America, including the rise of non-white voters, including the shift of professionals to the Democrats, the changes in cosmopolitan, metropolitan areas, the shifts in women voters. It was a big group of changes. Plus, we always argued very specifically, Democrats had to retain a core support among white working class voters. And if they couldn't do it, the political arithmetic didn't work for them. So unfortunately, I think that got summarized in a lot of people's minds as saying, oh, there's going to be a lot more non-white voters, a lot less white voters, therefore the Democrats will win forever. That's not at all what we said. And now what we see is that if you look at the non-white population, if you look at Blacks, Hispanics, and so on, that you're actually starting to bleed working class support among those constituencies. My data show that in the 2020 election, Hispanic working class voters moved away from the Democrats by 18 points. So this is a big deal. We're continuing to see these shifts as we move into the 2022 cycle. We're seeing it in the New York Times Siena poll and other polls. And Democrats can no longer assume that Hispanics assume that we will vote for the Democrats. No.
I could pause it and stop it right there because you get the point. Now, what's missing, and I think it's good that it's missing, is that you're not seeing Democrats leave and seeing the same numbers join the Republican Party. People are just waking up to both parties are terrible. I'm hoping that's the case, but Democrats are bleeding support because Joe Biden is terrible, because the Joe Manchin problem. Look at that. I could just literally go up, which is a damn shame. And AOC and Ilhan Omar fake handcuffed themselves. Wow. Just went back in time with the stories we covered today. But I'm going to be ending it in about 10 minutes to 15 minutes. But before I do that, let's talk about some other things that's going to be coming up. And I'm going to get that final video ready, our closeout video, which is right here. We're going to do a little Kwame Ture as our closeout video today. But before we get to that, let's do some chat. Let's do some chat checking here and some like checking here before we get off. And if for those that missed the announcement yesterday, it wasn't really an announcement, but for those that missed the news or didn't get the word, we will be doing chapters, RBN chapters. And the launching chapters, there'll be 6 launching chapters in the cities where all the members are. So like Boston, like New York, like Orlando, like Detroit, and so on. We'll be having chapters, RBN chapters, doing the work of Tour for the Poor. And another thing that was decided in our recent meeting is that RBN is going to technically be taking over Tour for the Poor. Rome will still be doing the same exact thing. It's just that it's not a Rome thing. It's now an RBN thing. So that's 2 of the things that came out of the meeting that we recently have. But let's watch or let's listen, or let's throw up some comments. Thanks. Non-citizens can't vote. Watch less MSNBC. Watch more CNBC. As annoying as it can be, nothing is worse than these talking, complaining pundits with no power. Let's look at some other ones. Vote or don't vote, but know that the owners will purchase their puppet with or without you, whether you like it or not. That's spot on. When can you purchase those invisible handcuffs? You got to hit up AOC and Ilhan. They got like the high class version of it, the Macy's version, Fifth Avenue version of it, I guess. It's a lot of conversation between each other or between yourselves, and I don't want to put that up. Just the comments. It's ready for display. Let's start a worker-owned guillotine factory. Pitchforks too. Funny comment. So I think we've come to probably the end of this. The last like check I did, we have 450 likes. That is awesome. Maybe we can get to 475 or even 500 before we end. We still got 360 people. Lots are new people that haven't liked the stream yet, so we can definitely push that to that number. I think I put that one up already. Next thing is tomorrow I will have one of the founding members of Black Power Media. Kamal will be on tomorrow. Let me see if I can quickly find the time he will be on here. Okay, so Kamal, let me give you Wednesday 3:30. Yeah, so actually it will be a little bit early tomorrow, 3:30, 12:30. So probably be on about at 3 o'clock, and he'll be on at 3:30. So Kamal from Black Power Media, one of the founders, will be joining me just to talk about activism. So somebody had a comment earlier about less conversation about these people and more conversation about organizing. That's what we're doing. And this is one of the conversations we'll be having tomorrow. We had another one yesterday with a disability rights advocate. So our strategy is to do both, because we have to be in the spaces where people's consciousness is now, which may not be Marxism, which may not be socialism, or so we have to be in those spaces to radicalize them out of those spaces, just like we were. But we're gonna end today with Kwame Ture. Let me see if I need to read the caption here. Let me see. No, it's just quoting, and you'll be able to hear what the quote is. So, it will loop twice, and then the stream will end. Thank you for joining me today on Rockfan, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. Thank you for joining RBN today. Hopefully you like the show. Give it a thumbs up. Let's push that to, I forget the number we're looking for, or 475 to 500. Let's push those likes up. Thank you for joining today. I'm one of your hosts of the Nick and CJ Show. I'm CJ. And check Nick out at, I think he said 9 Eastern. He has a guest at 9 Eastern tonight.
A boycott is a passive act. It is the most passive political act that anyone can commit, a boycott. Because what the boycott was doing was simply saying, we will not ride your buses. No sort of antagonism. He was not even verbally violent. He was peaceful. Dr. King's policy was that nonviolence would achieve the gains for Black people in the United States. His major assumption was that if you are nonviolent, if you suffer, your opponent will see your suffering and will be moved to change his heart. That's very good. He only made one fallacious assumption. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience. The United States has none. Has none. A boycott is a passive act. It is the most passive political act that anyone can commit, a boycott. Because what the boycott was doing was simply saying, we will not ride your buses. No sort of antagonism. He was not even verbally violent. He was peaceful. Dr. King's policy was that nonviolence would achieve the gains for Black people in the United States. His major assumption was that if you are nonviolent, if you suffer, your opponent will see your suffering and will be moved to change his heart. That's very good. He only made one fallacious assumption. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience. The United States has none. Has none.